Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to bring you guys an updated run of all of my Shadowlands stages. Now, I normally do this on stream with you guys so we can have time to talk about it and discuss and plan things and joke together, but unfortunately I wasn't able to stream, so I wanted to bring you guys the Shadowlands clears that I would do on my own were I not streaming. As well, because I recorded the Shadowlands clears or the actual gameplay separately from the audio, I am recording and I am giving my commentary after the fact, judging by what I'm seeing, so it's not in real time, and I am also obviously speeding up the audio, so there is some pretty funny background music there, and I do enjoy some of the more high-pitched chipmunk-like tones that we're getting from some of the characters, but I did that of course to save time so that we don't run a very long video. This is as short as I could cut it, guys. And I also wanted to give you guys my thoughts after clearing it. So I tried to, in general, clear it as efficiently as I could. There are some stages where I overkill it, but I first clear or I complete the stage with only one try on almost all 25 stages. And on the stages where I don't clear in one try, I will note it otherwise. So the first stage with Black Panther was actually quite easy, quite simple to do. Black Panther's 5th skill and 4th skill pair quite nicely, and it's almost an easy, 1-2 punch. The second stage, I probably didn't need Lincoln, Malekith, and Star-Lord. Yes, I did get the Space Armor biker uniform that looks like a bike messenger, and I have, succumbed to the uniform upgrade system. Here on the third stage, I really wanted to see how much better Hulk would do. I usually use Hulk on the first stage with Cho, but I wanted to give him a little bit more play on the third stage and see how his survivability would match up now that he has a heal effect on his 4-star passive. I didn't find him to be too much better, but he was a little bit more reliable, and I didn't feel as reckless as I usually do playing as Hulk. I felt as though I had a little bit more leeway, and that even though he took a lot of punishment, he would bounce back if he had enough of a buffer on his life. So I did switch a couple times. I did abuse the VIP heal a little bit, but I did most of the clear almost exclusively with Hulk and Captain America. Captain America probably did about 60% of the damage all in all, but I think Hulk felt a little bit stronger than usual, but not enough, and not as much as I expected him to, and definitely not enough compared to Red Hulk, as you will see later on. On the next stage, we encountered another Rumble. Again, I probably overdid it, and I did overkill it with the Ancient One, Coulson, and Iron Man. I don't think I needed all three of those. I probably could have soloed this stage with Ancient One, and I know people in the comments are going to say something like, Ancient One can solo stage 25, tier 1, all 5 gears. That's fine. I just wanted to get this one done with. I really hate Rumbles. There's too much RNG, and things go wrong, and you get pissed, and you want to break your phone or your tablet, so I just didn't want to risk it, and I wanted to get it done as fast as possible. It was actually quite late when I was recording this, and I only had about 5 or 6 hours before Shadowlands closed altogether for the week. Here on stage 5 is where I encountered my first real problem. I actually died the first time using just Ghost Rider and Jane Foster. I didn't die with Ghost Rider, but I died with Jane Foster against the enemy Ghost Rider. And so I had to restart because my Ghost Rider could not kill the enemy Ghost Rider in time using just the basic attack and the car on the second skill. So I actually restarted the stage and summoned Punisher, or used Punisher as the leadership for the 24% all attack, and as you can see, it greatly improves the speed at which I clear this level, because I can clear or kill both Thor and Ronan in less than a minute, and then Jane Foster just goes to town on a helpless Ghost Rider. So that one did take 2 tries, unfortunately. This next stage, I wanted to start using some speed characters because I hadn't used any yet, and I want to try to balance it. Thank you for the lunar gift box. I try to balance my characters to keep in mind how many combat I have left, how many speed I have left, and how many blast I have left. So hopefully that can teach you to do the same thing as well. Here I relied primarily on Elektra's skill rotation and just the amount of burst damage that she can do safely with all of her iframes. She does end up taking a lot of damage, but I'm able to switch pretty cleanly into Miles Morales and Sin to cycle through their iframe skills and their CC abilities. Admittedly, I don't feel very comfortable using Miles Morales. I actually feel more comfortable with Sin's skill rotation than Miles's. I don't know why that is, if it's just more intuitive for me or if I just had more practice. Obviously, I feel the most comfortable with Electra's, and that's why I'm able to play with her despite having a very low health total, because I know what skill is coming next, and I know my rotation in my head before I'm even doing it. And that's why she pretty confidently clears that on such low health. For this next stage, I wanted to do an Iron Heart solo, so this is stage 7 of Shadowland. In hindsight, I did not need Sister Grimm or Rocket Raccoon, but I did not set this up more perfectly than it could have gone. This was by accident, but as you'll see here, I take a lot of damage at the very beginning, and I almost die. And then I decided that I needed to, as I was playing, be more cautious and less aggressive and more careful with my timing. So I worked through the 5th skill and then one other skill and then back to the 4th skill to take advantage of that full iframe to protect me while I wasn't immune. And then I just did that for the duration of the fight, rinse, repeat, in order to secure the victory. Now I think this is the best example that I have to date of Ironheart's poor DPS. You know, she's tier 1, but I have excellent cards. I have a lot of all attack and energy attack on my cards as effects. She has an ISO 8 set, and she has, you know, level 17 or level 15 gears at least. So she's no slouch, and she's using her own leadership. And yet, with only 2 million damage, or only 2 million HP total, because there are 4 enemies and they're about 500,000 HP each, it still takes her almost the full 3 minutes to clear this fight. And that's doing less than 2 million true damage, because a lot of the damage that she's dealing is actually being dealt to both enemies because it's got AoE effects. So I was, you know, confirmed in my suspicion or my belief that her damage is quite low with that Shadowlands example. For this stage, I really wanted to try out and test the limits of Red Hulk with his Marvel Now uniform. I did give in once again and buy a new uniform. I did spend quite a lot of crystals on uniforms, guys. But I was pleasantly surprised by how easy this relay was. I basically face tanked with Red Hulk. I know I'm not using the optimal skill rotation, guys. I know that there's a better, you know, way to chain through all of his skills, and there's a safer way. But even with my, you know, half-assed or half-baked approach, this is an easy clear. I don't need Hogan. I don't need Drax. This is just an absolute obliteration. This uniform is amazing. And not that I needed a more, you know, solid proof of it, because I've already seen other people with videos, but it was just fantastic for me to, you know, do it in person and feel it. Whenever I see this male relay stage after about 8 or 9, I know that my go-to team of Black Bolt, Iron Fist, and Falcon can pretty, you know, handily clear this one. I probably don't need Falcon at all because I don't use him in this fight. And I could probably get by with switching Iron Fist for just a regular kiting character, so basically just fighting with Black Bolt until he's about to die, switching, letting him heal from the VIP, and then switching back. But I felt that that kind of betrayed, you know, the thematic nature of the team that I had built, even though they don't have much relation in the comics. But still, I felt as though Iron Fist is the weak link between him and Black Bolt, just because when I get through Iron Fist's 4th and 5th skills, he basically doesn't have anything else to do. Whereas with Black Bolt, I can cycle through all 5 skills and they all do something that I feel impacts the game and impacts my opponent. Here I wanted to go again with the relay, and I decided that I wanted to use Shang-Chi because I just love his animations. I love how he plays. It's very fun and awesome and looks so cool visually to play as him. I did slot Giant Man here for the bonus with Spider-Man, I believe it is, but I decided not to use Giant Man, 1, because I didn't actually need him, but 2, because there is still, I believe, a glitch with Giant Man in Shadowland, where if you use his 5th skill in the wrong place at the wrong time, it glitches the enemy out of the map. It like pushes them off of the mappable area, and then the time runs out because you can't hit the enemy and they're still alive, and then you lose and you get the kind of blue screen victory defeat screen. So I don't think I wanted that, so I think subconsciously I never switched to Giant Man, but I also didn't technically need him. And if you didn't have a good idea of how much ass Shang-Chi kicks, you do now, because Mans puts in so much work and just blows, you know, Captain America Bucky out of the water. Here on stage 11, I saw the female relay and it had the card, so I decided to go with it. Originally, I wanted to use Songbird, but I thought I would use her on a later stage, so I actually instead used a Tier 2 Elsa. I didn't technically need to use her here. I could have used a Tier 1 Songbird, I think. The one thing I was worried about with this stage when I was going through it, and prior to going through it, was Electra. Because of all of her recent buffs, a lot of people have been complaining on the Reddits and in the comments that Electra is now pretty scary in Shadowland. I didn't end up facing a higher floor Electra, so 11 is the only example that I have, but I didn't see, or I didn't feel that she was particularly scary. I know I did take a lot of damage as Elsa, but I never got bled by Electra either, so I don't know if that's just luck or, you know, just a product of how she rotates through her skills now, but I ended up losing basically both Gamora and White Tiger, and so I had to solo the rest of it with Elsa. After the immunity wears off from her 5th skill, I did buy some time by using the first skill, the baseball bat, to temporarily stun and interrupt the opponents from doing damage so that I can rotate back into the 5th skill and continue to DPS. So that was basically an Elsa carry and an Elsa clear. On this next stage, and for a couple of the stages, I have kind of designated characters. So whenever I see a level 10 or 11 or 12 Rumble that has all the Hulks, I know that I can pretty easily clear it with Wasp Tier 2. I think Tier 1 Wasp can do it as well, but it's a lot closer to the 3-minute timer, and you have to kind of play safely for a lot longer, so I don't necessarily recommend that, but it's definitely possible, I think. This one also took me 2 tries. The first time around, I got down to Hulk and Hulkling and She-Hulk, I believe, but Hulk proved to be a little bit too crafty for me, and as you're going to see from this clear, he does push me out of the bubble a lot. The other Hulks don't have that much pushing power, but for whatever reason, World War Hulk does, and he actually gets a lot of shots in and almost kills me in this run. And it was the first run, the original run, that he did kill me with the exact same tactic. I just got lucky this time around, and he wasn't able to push me out enough to kill me. But it was very, very close, a bit of a nail biter, and not the most comfortable fight to win. Here on floor 13, I saw the Double Destroyer boss, and I really do enjoy playing those because they're just super fun, and I really like using Green Goblin, so I decided to queue up Green Goblin, and I usually just pair him with Ultron for the all-attack leadership. Now, the one thing that I was surprised about that I didn't anticipate when I started doing this level was when Green Goblin got hurt, I decided, of course, to switch characters. I switched initially to Ultron, not Iron Man, although Iron Man did make Ultron. And then I decided that instead of just kiting with Ultron, I was actually going to try and fight with Ultron. Now, the first time I didn't really do too much fighting, but the second time, as you're going to see here, I do end up using Ultron a little bit more, for a little bit longer, you know, with a little bit more efficiency. And he's actually pretty effective. I felt like I had control over the fight when I was using Ultron, and I felt like he was doing respectable damage, especially for how much time was going by, and he was crowd controlling both of the destroyers quite well. So I think that, you know, not that I want you to tier 2 Ultron just yet until he gets his fixes, but I feel like if you have a very well-geared tier 1 Ultron with a good obelisk and good ISO set, you could probably clear that stage 13 Shadowland Double Destroyer boss with just Ultron. So that's a pretty cool feat for the Garbage Man. I was quite happy to see his usefulness bump up, in my mind at least. Here on stage 14, again, it's another speed, or it's another blast relay, and it preferences or prioritizes speed characters. I know that Ant-Man can clear this one quite easily, so I decided to give it a go. I was also saving, and I am also saving Kate Bishop for a higher level, so I couldn't use her, and I had already used Elsa, so, you know, I didn't have much left besides tier 2 Ant-Man for very reliable speed characters. I didn't feel like trying Silk because if you guys watched the live stream 2 weeks ago, it was actually a huge pain in the ass to try and kill Wiccan with Silk because he's just slippery as hell, and then if I don't web him, I instantly die, so Ant-Man is the much better choice. However, I did make mistakes with both Red Skull and War Machine, and then had no one to switch to between Ant-Man losing his tier 2 passive and having his 4th skill on cooldown and not being able to be used. So I put myself in a bit of a dangerous position, and as you guys are going to see here, it gets about as close as it could possibly get. 197 health. What the hell? But I did clear it on the first try. I was very surprised that I didn't die, but also very happy that I didn't die. And it led over to stage 15. Here I decided to go with Bullseye, Leadership, and Black Widow. I wanted to ensure that I got the fight on the first try. I originally was going to go with a Deathlock Leadership for the physical attack, but I thought that the Ignore Dodge would be more useful overall, and I was pleasantly surprised that I could clear this in one shot. Now, normally I try to only use tier 2 characters from about stage 15 onwards, so that would fit with this motif. But I know I did already use Elsa and Ant-Man and others, so, you know, keep that in mind that if you don't have that many tier 2 characters, you can still clear Shadowlands quite reasonably, at least to, you know, 20, 21, 22 with fewer tier 2 characters. I was clearing to stage 25 before with old tactics, where I would only use tier 2 characters from stage 16 onwards, so it's definitely doable. Here on this villain stage, I wanted the card, so I went with the choice from the list that I had, and I went with the Ebony Maw solo because I thought it was going to be quite easy. Boy was I wrong. I played pretty lazily in the beginning of the fight, the first half, and so Ebony takes a lot of damage and gets pretty close to dying, but I managed to string together a lot of good skill rotations to get him out of safety and to really use the clones defensively to keep the enemy away, but also using the Stone Pillar. The first skill, which has a stun effect, a CC effect, was actually invaluable in this fight. If I didn't have the Stone Pillar skill, or if the Stone Pillar skill didn't have a stun effect on it, I probably would not have cleared this stage, you know, as well as I did. I know I'm very close to death for about half of the fight, but the success of it is due in large part to that first skill, the Stone Pillar. For stage 17 and onward, whenever I see the black antimatter, I choose to play that stage. That's why I chose this one. I did initially intend to clear it only with Hyperion, and only have Groot there as a backup and for occasional heals, but I, fucked up Hyperion's skill rotation a little bit, and I got punished, so he died. It was not my intention to have him die. I wasn't trying to troll the character, but, shit happens. Rather than restart the fight and waste more time, I decided to see if Groot could clear it by himself. I was also kind of curious from an experimental standpoint of view if Groot had enough damage to actually kill all three characters in, the 2.5 minutes that I had left, and if he could survive as well and not take too much damage. So I decided to try it out, and I was pleasantly surprised. Groot got it on the first try, and I didn't have a lot of time left on the clock, but I never felt like I was in a big rush. Now I have a lot of good all attack and physical attack stats on my cards. I do have an offensive ISO 8 set for Groot, which is obviously not the best set, and I think the best set for Groot is like Start Backing. Or not Start Backing, sorry, the HP Bubble one, Drastic Density. But I had an offensive set anyways, and the curious thing and the coincidental fortunate thing was that, or is that, Groot's uniform makes him immune to some of Bucky Captain America's attacks because they're lightning based. So that was kind of an unintended benefit of slotting Groot in for this fight, and I actually didn't plan on it originally because I was planning to just use Hyperion. But it was, it was fun for me to discover that mid-fight. Here on stage 18, it's pretty much a Moon Knight solo through and through. Deathlock is only there for the leadership to add additional physical damage, although I think tier 2 Moon Knight can clear without the leadership if you have a good obelisk. There is unfortunately one point where I do take a lot of residual damage from the dot effects that both Red Hulk and Ghost Rider leave. So if you're having a little bit of trouble with this stage, just keep in mind that if you stand in those pools of fire, you are going to take a lot of damage. And so there's a point very soon where I take too much damage and I have to switch, which usually doesn't happen with Moon Knight, but I wasn't comfortable and I thought I was going to die, so I decided to play it safe and switch. I do still get the kill in one shot, but it did surprise me just how much damage those fire pool dot effects did to my precious Batman. Stage 19, again, we went with the black antimatter, and here I believe was my best opportunity to use Kate Bishop with a type advantage, because I know most of the other stages from there on out don't feature blast characters, so I wanted to use her, and boy was I not disappointed. I had already used Kate Bishop in the live stream Shadowland clear, but here we used her on a later stage, I believe, and this is just an absolute obliteration fest. This is not even close, guys. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mr. Olympia. There is just no chance in hell that these losers are ever going to touch Kate Bishop. There is so much crowd control going on. They don't even have the opportunity to do one skill. I don't think I saw more than one skill cast from the opponent that entire match. It was just a slaughter fest, and it speaks to just how powerful Kate Bishop is in Shadowland. For stage 20, I wanted again the black antimatter, so we went with the lightning relay. Keep in mind that fire attacks do extra damage to Groot because he has a negative resistance. I also do want to shed a little bit more light on Hellstorm's skill rotation. In some of my other videos, I did not speak enough about Hellstorm's third skill, which does give him a damage boost. It's a self-buffing skill, and so it's pretty useful, and it's something that you should try to rotate in just before the fifth skill to maximize the damage, because fortunately for Hellstorm, his fifth skill is also his most damaging skill. So try to work in the fifth skill after the third skill, so maybe you could rotate like 4, 1, 3, 5 or something like that, in order to take advantage, full advantage, or at least partial advantage of that boost from the third skill. From stage 21 on, you only get single bosses, so I had a very good idea of who I wanted to use for each stage. The only hesitation that I have here is because I don't want to use Kingpin. So instead of using Kingpin, I decided to go ahead and use Amora, or Enchantress. The one kind of curious thing I found is that although she only has a 70% chance to charm Venom, there were a couple of times where I did charm Venom, but he only stayed charmed for about a second or a second and a half. It wasn't the full 4 or 5 seconds that I'm used to seeing. Some of the time he would get charmed for the full duration, and you'll see that as I'm talking, but there were a couple of instances where he only got charmed for about a second or a second and a half, and it just seemed a little bit strange to me. I don't know if Venom has boosted crowd control reduction from his leadership or from the Shadowland stage or from the pot, but you guys can let me know in the comments if you've experienced something similar to this against Venom in Shadowland, and if you know maybe what it is, or if you don't and you've experienced, at least you can share that with us. Stage 22 is notoriously difficult because of all of the villains and because there's a heavy bleed damage that both Bullseye and Malekith will perform on the character. So I've only had success with clearing this stage with Thanos or Corvus. I haven't had a lot of success with any other Black Order characters or supervillains. I imagine that maybe a tier 2 Loki or a tier 2 Enchantress could do this stage, but I am curious what you guys think and what you guys have used or who you've used to clear the stage if you haven't used one of the Black Order or tier 2 Enchantress. So let me know who you guys used to clear the stage if you can get this far in Shadowland, because I think it's quite challenging for a lot of the supervillains. Maybe in the right hands, a very, very strong tier 2 Baron Mordo could do this, because he does have quite a bit of CC and he has a guard skill. But I think it would be quite difficult without very perfect or near perfect gameplay, especially in the first two enemies, Malekith and Bullseye. On this stage, I couldn't use any more physical attacks, and I didn't have a lot of reliable energy damage dealing characters, so I went with Doctor Strange. I know it's a bit of a cop-out using him because he's so powerful, but I thought, you know, what the heck, I just want to finish this as fast as I can, and if it's one thing that Doctor Strange delivers on, it's speed, baby. So that one went by very quickly. Stage 24, I usually use Sharon Rogers here, but I wanted to switch it up, so I decided to go with Odin instead. Odin and Luke Cage don't have much, if any, interaction in the comics, so I wanted to highlight that a little bit for you guys. And I would be curious to know what you guys think Odin and Luke Cage would talk about were they to meet in the comics. So, you know, given their differences in personality and in perspective, where they come from, their background, and, you know, the kind of lives they're used to leading, Luke Cage on the streets, Odin in a giant fucking golden castle, I think it'd be pretty funny if they met face to face. For this last fight, I decided to use Carnage just because I wanted to get it over with quickly. I probably would have done even better if I had put in a physical leadership, but I thought, you know, what the hell. The one thing that I want you to pay attention for the duration of this fight is Carnage's fourth skill, where he jumps back and he shoots a bunch of like symbiote darts at Daredevil. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's tracking or if it's the way the animation plays out, but the skill never triggers the effect, the damage never shows up. It's very strange. For the whole duration of the fight, Carnage's fourth skill just doesn't seem to work. And I don't know if this boils down to tracking, or if it boils down to how fast the rotation is going, or if it just speaks to the bad coding of this Shadowlands fight, but I kept doing the regular skill rotation just to see if it would keep screwing up. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention because I think it's a little bit curious, and it might actually be a problem for some people who need the full 3 minutes and need all that damage to clear stage 25 of Shadowlands. But that's my clear. It took all in all about an hour, including all of this fluff stuff at the end where I open all the items and I go through King of the Hill. So I think in general, or you know, roughly, it took about 50 minutes to go through all of Shadowland. Keep in mind that the people who clear it first to get King of the Hill at the beginning of the reset probably do it in about 20 or 25 minutes, so I was way behind. There in the King of the Hill, I was quite surprised to see that Wasp actually silenced Doctor Strange, so I almost died. That would have been quite the interesting highlight if I had died, but thankfully I didn't. Here I just wanted to open some of these gifts for you guys to, you know, closely resemble or emulate the ASMR treatment that we get on the live stream. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it for you guys, but I still wanted to give you some semblance of satisfaction regarding opening all these boxes. But overall, guys, I wanted to bring you another Shadowlands clear fully from start to finish, just to give you guys an update, because I know it's been a long time since I talk about Shadowlands, and a lot has changed with so many characters being introduced and the power level of characters that we can use going up by quite a lot, especially in the last 2 updates. So let me know, guys, how you're doing in Shadowlands. Let me know what you think of the video, what kind of practices you're including in your Shadowlands runs. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.